All right, welcome to Roofstock Academy. In today's webinar, we're going to be talking about why we built Roofstock Academy, what's within Roofstock Academy, and go over a sample lecture and answer some frequently answered questions. But before we get going, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself. So my name is Tom Schneider. I'm the Director of Investor Education. I have over 10 years experience as a broker as well as an investor. I started my career at one of the original single-family rental publicly traded REITs before it was public, initially on the acquisition side, buying the houses, and then on the technology side, building out the tools to scale the platform. And then most recently, I've worked in operations here at Roofstock, getting properties up listed for sale, as well as facilitating the close and the valuation. So why did we build Roofstock Academy? At a very high level, it's a way to get investors to the next level. So be it you're going from 0 properties to 1 property, or 1 property to 10 properties, or 10 to 100, there are steps and lessons that you'll learn along the way, and we want to expedite that process by combining all the recipes for being effective and getting to the next level. And specifically, those recipes is knowledge. So knowing what you don't know, knowing what you need to know, knowing what's important, what's not important. Experience, so having a lot of coaches who've gone through this a lot and have a lot of real ground level experience in doing it, as well as coaching, which is kind of putting all of those together to develop a personalized strategy, which will ultimately go into a personalized plan. The composition of Roofstock Academy is really 3 main parts. At the bottom of the pyramid is education. I'm going to talk about each of these different components in a little bit of depth in a minute, but at a high level, the education material, there's roughly 40 to 50 hours worth of these 5 to 10 minute bite-sized lectures where we go over a particular topic of what's important, what do you need to know, where are the risks at, what are some personal experience on the topic, and then on top of that is the coaching. And this is where, based on your goals and what you want to get out of real estate investing, combined with the education, what does your personalized plan look like? And the top of the pyramid is community. This is where we combine members of the program along with the coaches to discuss various aspects of real estate investing, be it deal discussion or market discussion or vendor discussion. This is a private forum where members have access to the coaches who created the lectures and have all this experience and get to talk about whatever is relevant for them in investing right now. So as I mentioned, education is structured in a way that it's bite-sized, pick your own journey, 5 to 10 to 15 minute lectures, kind of similar to this, where we have a few coaches talking over a PowerPoint slide on a particular topic. There is a sequence of the lectures that we have that we think makes sense, but you're welcome to pick and choose whichever lectures you want to take. And as I mentioned, we're going to go through a sample lecture here today. The lectures are also interactive. So after completing a lecture, there are oftentimes discussion points or quizzes. Another point about the lectures is it's very holistic. So as I said, there's material if you're just going from 0 to 1 and building your strategy and buy box and doing all the necessary steps, such as financing and getting insurance in place, to if you're more advanced, if you're looking into getting portfolio financing or portfolio acquisitions or cashing out refinance, all of that good stuff. So all right, let's go ahead and jump into our sample lecture here on the considerations of buying occupied or vacant. So give me 1 second while I switch this over. All right. So this lecture, sample lecture we're going to do is considerations of buying a property either occupied or vacant. My experience, I've purchased both occupied or vacant. And I've had a pretty good experience in both situations, but it's important to know the downsides and the upsides of either strategy. So let's first talk about buying properties that are occupied. So some benefits of buying an occupied property is pretty straightforward. You're cash flowing on day one, and there's no downtime with regards to closing and starting to collect checks. So you can immediately start to build up a reserve of funds from the rental income that is coming in. Another pro is you're getting the security deposit at the close of the transaction. The previous owner is going to send that over to you, which could be used for repairs for after the tenant moves out. An important part of that is making sure that you're getting the move-in, move-out report from the seller so that you can collect on that security deposit. But we talk more about the transfer process within a transaction in a separate lecture. Another really valuable point is you can interview the tenant who's been living there and have a much better insight on the major operating systems of the house, like the HVAC, the plumbing, versus a home that's been sitting vacant for a little bit. So you're going to have a much better insight on how well the home's major systems are functioning. And as I said, I like to use the analogy of thinking about a house kind of like a car, where if I'm buying a used car, I feel pretty comfortable if that car's been running for a lot of miles versus not having a lot of miles. Versus a house that's been sitting vacant on the market for a long time. That's oftentimes when a lot of plumbing or those kind of house systems can go stale and have issues. So a home that's occupied, that the major systems have been running. Some of the cons of buying an occupied property, you are inheriting the tenants. So I think the process of tenanting, of applicant screening is really important. And in acquiring a property that's occupied, you don't really have a say in that. The tenant that is moving in, they get the terms of their lease through the end of it. So that's just something to consider, that whatever that applicant screening criteria, you are not the one who's setting it. And it's important for you to find out from the seller, what was their screening criteria. Another con of an occupied property is you're subject to any bad habits from the tenants, be it the way that they're taking care of the property, or perhaps their payment schedule is off. Both the good and the bad, you're inheriting those as they come across. Another con is tenants may try to take advantage of a new owner. While it's obviously really important that the home is safe and habitable, I think oftentimes a tenant may see a new owner as a chance to do a bunch of upgrades that maybe aren't really necessary, and they'll try to apply that. So that's something that we've seen in the past. Not necessarily the case all the time, but a potential consideration of inheriting a property that is occupied. The fourth con is you're subject to the terms of the existing lease. So there's a various aspects of a lease about who's paying utilities, what the rent is at, what is the rate after a certain amount of time, how long the lease is. So this is just things to put away in your consideration of when you're evaluating an occupied home, is really making sure that you understand the terms that are on that lease. And we have a separate lecture dedicated just to kind of understanding a lease within our acquisition analysis lecture series. Vacant. All right, so let's talk about the pros of acquiring a vacant property. So the pre-purchase inspections are much simpler. The logistics of inspecting a home that is occupied is significantly more overhead than that would be if a property was vacant. So there's needing to coordinate with the tenants, needing to coordinate with the property manager. So the inspections are much simpler. The other benefit of a vacant, if there is some repairs to be made, it's much easier to do them right away as soon as you acquire the property. If the property is vacant, there's that whole coordination piece that isn't there. Pros 3 and 4, rent at the market level, which is what the current comparables in the area speak to. The rents can automatically be set to that value. So if you have a tenant who's been living in the property for a long time, oftentimes those rents are well below what the market level is, and you wouldn't be maximizing your income with the rent collected. So in buying a vacant property, your rent can immediately be raised to the market value. A pro tip, though, of buying an occupied property where the current rental rate is lower, I think that's a really actually great opportunity to buy a property at maybe a little bit of a discounted price, just because the cap rate's going to be lower. And you know that over a period of time, either when the tenant renews or when the tenant moves out, you're going to be able to adjust the rate to what market level is. But anyways, back to talking about the pros of buying a vacant property, their rents can immediately be raised to market value. And you also have a high degree of control over that tenant selection process. Be it if you're using professional property manager, you would work closely with them in defining what your criteria is for applicant screening. And we talk about that also in another lecture in more detail about the applicant screening criteria and best practices. But in buying it vacant, you get to set that. Another pro tip is these properties can often be used as leverage during purchase negotiation. So some cons of a vacant property. So kind of conversely, there's no cash flows until you place the tenants. Also, the property might be a little bit more dilapidated. Also, vacant properties in certain areas are subject to vandalism and squatters, and this is a real thing. When I was working within the REIT space, there were certain areas where we wouldn't install air conditioning or other units that you normally would have. We'd wait until somebody moved in to put that, just because certain vacant properties in certain areas are just subject to vandalism, and they call it urban copper mining. Where a property, if it's occupied, it's not subject to that kind of risk while it's vacant. Another con is there is more likely than not going to need to be some immediate cost as soon as you close to get the property rent ready. Oftentimes it could be kind of lipstick stuff, making sure that the carpet and paint is good, but sometimes it could be a little bit more. So when you're thinking about buying a vacant property, there's the cash you need for your down payment if you're using financing, or cash if you're buying it outright. But you should also have an immediate reserve for amount of money that you need to get the property to rent ready. So almost, I'd say probably 95% of the time, there's going to need some immediate costs to get the property rent ready. And that's okay. Those costs are worth it because you're going to get a better monthly rent for those expenses. Another con is there's no guarantee that the repairs and rehab you make will equate to the estimated market rent. So this is just kind of like an inherent thing where, I can make these upgrades, but it may not necessarily equate to the rent that I'm getting. And versus when you buy an occupied property, you know exactly what the rent is going to be. So some key takeaways from this lecture is, in my experience, I'm pretty indifferent if the property is occupied or vacant. A good deal is a good deal. I'm focused more on what my purchase price is compared to any immediate construction costs versus to what the market rent is. So I've done both. It's just really important that you have your eyes open on the different downsides and upsides, and on particular deals, evaluating these different considerations, like what was the screening criteria of that occupied property, what is the immediate costs of the property to get it rent ready if it's vacant. So all of the stuff that we talked about. Another important takeaway is that you're buying vacant, have some cash reserves in place starting day one. It is highly unlikely that the property is going to be rent ready to go. Sure, it might be in very good shape, but oftentimes it will take a little bit more just to kind of get it on the market to get leased. And if you take advantage of a great deal, your vacancy storm will start the day that you close. So excellent. So I'm going to go ahead and jump back to our slide on Roofstock Academy, but just wanted to share that with you guys, the video on that lecture. And with the lectures, there's probably, like I said, like 50 hours worth of these 5 to 15 minute lectures, and we're actually building new lectures all the time. So within the community, the Slack channel, people are requesting things, and we're like, oh, that's a great idea. Let's make a really good lecture on that. So the content is pretty dynamic, where we put together a list of curriculum of content, and it's a growing list of items. And there's also links to calculators and plans and one-pagers and checklists and all of that stuff within the lectures, which is pretty great. Excellent. So let's talk a little bit about the coaching. So the way that we organize the coaching is, as soon as you enroll in the program, you're prompted to complete an orientation survey. And this orientation survey is going to answer a couple of questions. One, what's your experience in real estate investing? If you have an existing portfolio, how big of it? What's the composition of it? Two, what are your goals? What's your why, which is just such a key aspect in real estate investing, because oftentimes your strategy on what your goal is, it's going to work backwards from that to build out your specific plan. So you complete your orientation to answer a bunch of questions and also talk about your risk appetite. Then you complete maybe 2 weeks or so of lectures, and then you'll be contacted to schedule a time with a coach who will meet with you with a specific rental playbook and build that out with you on really specific actionable next steps and build that. And it's ongoing coaching. We expect most of the members to have roughly anywhere between 2 and 5 of these sessions. The first one's really important, just to kind of establish that investing playbook, and then a couple of follow-up ones. A lot of the day-to-day questions about deal analysis or market analysis, we want to use that within the Slack channel of the community, just because within the Slack channel you have access to all the coaches as well as the other members to make it a more vibrant discussion and more opinions and thoughts. So on community, so this is the Slack channel that I was referencing, and Slack is an online forum where all the members and coaches kind of come together and talk about deals, talk about markets, talk about vendors, and talk about the lectures. Maybe if we want some additional content, like that's a great place for that type of communication can come in. All right, so next I'm going to talk about the inaugural benefits. This is the launch of Roofstock Academy. So we're doing a couple of things to really amp up the value. One of it is a discounted price. So in the future, I think it's likely that this will be more a la carte based on the coaching and the lectures. But what we're doing with this initial launch is just having it at a flat rate, where there is never any upselling, there's never any additional charges. It's a flat rate to get in early at the $1,250. This provides you access to all of the future lectures. Like I said, I think likely in the future we may set this up as like a subscription service, but for this initial group that we're doing, it's access to all the future lectures, all the current lectures, and it's on demand whenever you want. Number 3 is picking the lectures you want. So as I alluded to, we've created a lot of really great content, and based on the feedback, we want to create more content. So an example of this is people wanted to hear a little bit more about the single family rental REIT space. So just the other day, I was able to do an interview with one of the former CEOs of one of the largest single family rents to talk about their general composition, their thoughts about them in the future, what are some drawbacks in investing through that marketplace, and thoughts in the future. So the point is, we're going to be creating a lot more content, and you're going to have a big say in what new content is created on top of the significant amount of lectures that we already have. The 4th point is the money that you spend to acquire, to buy, and join Roofstock Academy. You can spend that money will be forwarded to your next purchase on Roofstock as a marketplace. Now, a point I want to make is we think Roofstock as a marketplace is a great place to buy and sell properties, but all the educational material and the coaching in the community is indifferent to whether you buy on Roofstock or not. However, though, you do get a cash bonus towards buying on Roofstock, where your first property you buy after signing up, and you could be in the middle of a transaction, we'll still honor this, is at the closing, Roofstock will put $1,000 towards your closing. So you'll get back at the closing of your transaction on your first one. And on your second transaction, you'll receive a $250 credit on the closing statement. So if you're planning to buy rental properties, buying it, becoming a member in Roofstock Academy is basically for free. The fifth point is unconditional money back guarantee. So you can go through all of the material, do all the lectures, do the coaching sessions, and if you don't feel that there was enough value, no questions asked, unconditional money back guarantee. And the sixth point is just kind of a high level. This is a new program and we're really committed to making it successful, is we're aligned with you. So we're gonna do everything we can to add as much value and make this a no-brainer with regards to value and all that good stuff. All right, so next I'm going to go over some frequently asked questions that we've received so far in some discussions I've had with people. So the first is, there's a lot of free real estate investing information on the internet. How is Roofstock Academy worth the cost? And I agree, there's a lot of material on the internet and some of it is really great. I think what's unique to Roofstock Academy is a couple of aspects. One, all of the material is extremely action oriented and goes towards this building a playbook to build a specific personalized plan for you. This community within the Slack channel where you can actually interact with the people who created the lectures and follow-up questions. I think there's also something to be said with the type of the material. Like I said, it's really action oriented. In some situations, the material that you see on real estate investing is more marketing material versus like execution material. Like I said, it's all kind of geared toward getting you to the next level. Another thing with free material is it's oftentimes can be a little bit thin and scattered, and there's an order of operations of knowing things to know about real estate investing, and with Roofstock Academy, it's already situated in an order that's really by design in the way that you're taking in information versus kind of like one-off, posts. But with that said, I think getting exposed to as much material is really important. So there's a lot of great stuff on the internet, and I 100% would not discourage from checking it out as well. So the next question we get is, what if I don't purchase a rental property from Roofstock? Is this a Roofstock infomercial? And the answer to that is, this is this is not an infomercial. And while we think Roofstock is great, you do not need to do any purchasing or selling through Roofstock. Kind of a related question is, people talked about, oh, is this only for single family rentals? And it's up to a fourplex. So the material that we cover in depth in this program is from a fourplex to a threeplex to a twoplex to a single family. If you're interested in larger multifamily properties, I think over time we'll add content on that. But for this, initially, most of the content is going to be focused on from a fourplex down to a single family property. Who is this course intended for? So, as I mentioned, this course, while we have more advanced material, this course is a really wide range of experience. So, like I said, from going from 0 to 1 to 1 to 10 to 10 to 100, anywhere in that kind of a sweet spot is who this course is intended for. And another question that I've got is, do I need to have hundreds of thousands of dollars? And that's, while that's great and you can move faster, is definitely not necessary. I mean, there's a lot of ways. You guys have probably heard of house hacking, where you can, get started with as low as 3.5% down through an FHA and living in one of the rental units. But this is very much for people who are from getting started to have experience and have some properties under their belt and are looking to get to the next level. How does Roofstock Academy differ from other paid real estate investing education programs? So there is a lot of these other types of programs where maybe you go into a hotel ballroom for a weekend and they throw a bunch of information at you. Roofstock Academy is different in that it's on demand. It's a specific playbook. It's an ongoing community that you're joining with the coaches as well as the other members. This is never like an upselling thing. It's just this one-time at 1250. And it's an ongoing relationship of, getting the right educational background and information and coaching, like over time. Like it's not just jammed into a weekend. While you can, go through the program really quickly, and that's awesome. It's meant as like an ongoing support in your real estate investing goals and reaching them. How long does the program take? So I expect most people to finish the program anywhere between 1 and 3 months. There is roughly 50 hours or so of the educational material plus the coaching sessions. But like I said, it's go at your own speed, choose your own journey. We have the material in here, but I think it's, there's something to be said about having momentum and inertia and moving things quickly to be able to, be action oriented with things. So like I said, I think anywhere between 1 and 3 months is how long it'll typically take, but there isn't like a hard stop. Excellent. So space is filling up. So I recommend signing up as soon as you can. I'm going to answer some questions from you guys now, but some important links here, the link to the Roofstock Academy. We have some more sample lectures on there. One of them that I think people have gotten a lot of value is this, the game plan of building $100,000 in cash flow, an Excel model. And in enrolling that in the program, you get access to that Excel model, as well as a variety of other models and calculators and all of that good stuff. If you want some one-on-one time with me, there's a link here to schedule that on my calendar, as well as an email address if you want to communicate via email. So let's go ahead and go into some Q&A right now. Let's see what we got. Alrighty. All right, one question was, how does Roofstock assign the coaches and what are their background? So the coaches we have on Roofstock Academy, it's a combination of some internal employees at Roofstock, as well as some highly vetted coaches who are in the space. And all of these coaches, they do it personally, like have an investment portfolio, and for almost all of them, it's also professionally what they do. So kind of like a dog chasing a tennis ball, just like can't get enough about real estate investing. So a wide variety of backgrounds in the coaches. We have folks on the asset management side, on the acquisition side, on the appraisal side. So a wide variety of coaches that we have who are delivering the lectures, as well as doing some of the one-on-one piece. So the next question I have is, when will we be stopping enrollment? Enrollment is going to stop one of 2 points. So we have a specific number that we don't want to go over, just because this is going to be a super hands-on experience. So we have a number that we don't want to go over, and there's also a date. So there's going to be a hard end date on July 12th, where we're not going to allow anyone to sign up, or it could be earlier if we get over that number that we have. Let's see, there was another question we have here about more specific to the marketplace on the Roofstock home inspectors. So someone purchased a property and they were frustrated with some of the inspection reports. So the way that Roofstock manages some of their internal home inspectors, so there are third-party inspectors, certified inspectors that look at a property. When you buy off of Roofstock, you have the option to use a vetted Roofstock inspector, or you can use one of your own. We're going to talk a lot about the Academy, about the inspection report, and what we think is important, what is we not. Kind of the cliff notes on that is items where there is risk of being kind of a Pandora's box, like structural or roof. That's the stuff to look out for. Yeah, items that are more straightforward, like cosmetic, and even HVAC, like where there is a clear cost estimate. That's stuff to get less concerned about within the inspection report. But I think Luke was asking about the Roofstock Home Inspector. I'd love to look over your case and situation. So if you want to email me, we're happy to talk about it. It's tom@roofstock.com. But within the academy, we talk at length about the importance of the inspections, and there's various types of inspections. There is the inspection before you buy a house, and then there is the annual inspection that most property managers do, and I would recommend to members of the program to do with their property manager on an annual basis, kind of a tune-up, a check-in on their property, on their asset. Excellent. Any additional questions here? Great, guys. So this lecture was recorded, and we're going to share the recording out probably tomorrow is the 4th of July, so it'll probably be either Friday or Monday if you weren't able to catch the whole thing. Happy to answer any additional questions you guys have, either a 15-minute phone call or an email. But really appreciate your guys' time for jumping in, and happy investing.